Hunter Springs Kayak, they are a kayak company. So if you want to come into Crystal River, explore Kings Bay, Three Sisters Springs, Hunter Springs Kayaks will be your destination. I work at Manatee Tour and Dive and Hunter Springs Kayaks. My office is in Kings Bay, Crystal River, Florida. I grew up here. I've known about these animals. They're like squirrels. They were not important to me at all until I started doing this for work and I started to see other people's experience and how magical that was and how magical this bay is, that I've come to appreciate these animals far more. And that's where that education comes in, right? That conservation is all about knowledge and education. I would say Crystal River is popular for manatees and for manatee viewing and for swimming with manatees due to the around 30 or so major springs that we have here in Kings Bay. That spring water provides excellent viewing opportunities. You're able to get up close and personal without disturbing the animals because you can see them through the water. Most of the water they live in is murky, dark water. Not very good for viewing manatees, but you see them here at the springs and it's perfect.
You could go up to Crystal River and actually swim with them. And my brother and I did that with snorkels, and it was an amazing experience. There's a lot of seagrass up there, so we're snorkeling around and moving the seagrass, and all of a sudden there's this big face right next to you, facing you. I just reached out to touch it, and like a dog or a puppy, it rolled over on its back and just let it scratch its belly for about probably 20, 30 seconds. Then it got bored and rolled back on. There were actually 4 different kinds of manatees in the grouping called Sirenia. 3 of them go by the name of manatees. There's the West Indies manatee, the West African manatee, and the Amazonian manatee. They all have a round paddle tail, rounded tail. The other one lives in Asia, Australia, Asian area. And that's defined by a split tail called a swallowtail, like this. Other than the tail, they look identical. They don't actually migrate as we think of migrations because as long as there's a food source and warm water, they don't have to go very far at all. We've been told by Fish and Wildlife Commission that probably 90% of the manatees that come in here are in Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg area year-round. I will usually take a cart that has the bones on it out to the viewing area. So when they're looking at the manatees, if they're more curious and want some more information, they just come over to the cart and I give a little presentation on them. And the manatees in the rib cage alone do not have any marrow. It's solid calcium. The density of that accounts for the weight. They're considerably heavier than any other rib that you would find from an animal. And we have one from a cow for comparisons. And it serves a couple of purposes for them. One being that these animals live at 1,200 pounds, their food source is underwater as opposed to the cow is right on the grass. So those heavy bones help the animals sink down to where their food is. The second thing is there is no record of an alligator or a shark attacking a manatee.
So we had a natural disaster in 1993 called the No Name Storm.
They'd listened to storm warnings most of the night, but no one told them to evacuate.
They just said the water would be a little higher. You know, the water was extremely higher.
It brought in a 10-foot storm surge, and it inundated Kings Bay, though, with a lot of salt water and muck. So the muck buried many of the spring vents and the salt water killed the freshwater vegetation. So growing up here in my life, you didn't really want to swim out here. It was nasty. About 6 years ago, they started the restoration project, and that was just dredging out all that mud that was on the bottom, like a foot of mud. And in doing so, opened up all those little spring vents that are scattered all around. So now we have an increased flow of spring water in Kings Bay. And then they started planting eelgrass from some rivers that we have in Florida that are healthy. They moved that eelgrass into Kings Bay, started planting it by hand. The grass took off on its own, and it's pretty much filled all of Kings Bay. And then now they're able to use that grass to go help feed the manatees on the other coast. They eat aquatic vegetation. If they get a chance on a high tide, they will try to eat the grass in your yard or any other kind of plants, elephant ears, ferns, you name it. If it's green, they will try to eat it.
As far as eating, they are 100% vegetarian, anything with chlorophyll.
They need to get 10% of their body weight every day just to maintain their body weight. We teach the public how to comfortably swim with these animals. There's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And the more we can teach people the right way to approach a manatee, they can take that to any wild animal they ever encounter. Knowing the difference between following one and chasing one. And that difference is pretty clear when they use that tail. If they use that tail, they're swimming away from you and you don't pursue. If they're just grazing along the bottom and eating, you can follow him around and observe them. Obviously, don't reach out and touch them. I'd say bringing people out here and teaching them not to reach out and touch something is something that they just missed when they were a child. So they're out here trying to touch wild animals. It's like, no, no, no. We're gonna be the parents out here. So my first magical experience with the manatees was my first experience with the manatees. My brother-in-law, very nice gentleman, took me out on his houseboat. Early in the morning, about 6:30 in the morning, we go up to the keyhole at the King Spring, the largest spring located here in Kings Bay. The manatees like to rest around the edges of the keyhole in the shallow water, and we were swimming up into that little hole there when this manatee comes out of the blue, and we make eye contact immediately. Something sparked. He rolls underneath me, belly up, comes along and just grabs a hold of me and squeezes. And this is my first experience. I'm freaking out inside. I know to stay calm and not really move, but I'm looking over at my brother-in-law, Brian, like, what do I do? He's like, just don't do anything at all. Basically, you're a mammal, he's a mammal, you're both in the water together, let it happen. And that's what you do. You just sit there and let it happen. Of course, eventually, he tried pulling me underwater, it felt like, so I kind of got a little squirmish and he let go. But then he grabbed a hold of my foot and I was towing him around as I was trying to swim back to the boat. I was just tugging him along with me. That was my first real experience, and I'll never forget it.
That sounds like exactly what happened to me today.
Yep, yep.
Are those experiences common?
They are not common. I think it takes a particular type of individual and a particular type of manatee. They can sense your heartbeat like 3 meters away. So maybe they like your heartbeat, they like your breathing, something about you they like, and they approach you. Yeah, this was a beautiful day today. Every day is beautiful out here. We've been having some really good days out here. And some really 5-star trips. But depending on tides, temperatures, and salinity really determines the quality of your viewing experience in Kings Bay. Today you guys got the right day, the right tide, the right everything. You had spring water filling almost all of Kings Bay. We want to keep these manatees happy. They have a very good long-term memory. If they have a bad experience with a person, they won't let people swim with them anymore. So it's important that we have a good experience, they have a good experience, so we can continue the experience. And my favorite part about the whole experience, the moment you put your head in that water, the world went away, and you actually lived in the present moment for a moment. You only do that before you fall asleep.